Thank you so much, Yolani. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Black History Month opening ceremony. Thank you for attending our event today. This year, the theme is Protecting the Crown, Breaking Generational Curses. I want to take the time to acknowledge the hard work of the committees, my co-chair, Rodney Coffin, and student co-chairs, Jamani Ashcraft, Dante Austin, Cherish Hudgens, Nasir Nas Jones, with the support of Yolani Gannell and Sherry Capers-Dock. Now, I would like to turn the program over to Jamani, who will introduce President Haldobler.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Richard Haldobler, our president. As many of you know from personal interactions with him, President Haldobler has a particularly strong understanding of our students. Not only is he a graduate of a public university, but like many of them, President Haldobler is a first-generation college student of immigrant parents. This personal experience informs his commitment to serving students for whom education is a means of social mobility and economic progress. Since his arrival on campus, President Haldobler has demonstrated through both words and deeds his commitment to combat bias and advance the causes of social justice, equity, and inclusion. After the successful launch, of the Black Cultural Center and the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, he has now made diversity and inclusion a special priority this academic year, which sees the launch of several important initiatives. These include the Diversity Council, Community Dialogue Series, President's Diversity Lecture, and the Pre-Doctoral Fellowship Program to advance a more diverse faculty. He is challenging all of us at William Paterson to rethink systems that create barriers for underrepresented populations in higher education. So please join me in welcoming President Haldobler.
Thanks, Jamani, for that kind introduction, and thank you to everyone for being here. I'm honored to have the opportunity to welcome you to the kickoff of William Paterson's celebration of Black History Month. I want to thank Chief Diversity Officer David Jones and Director Yolani Gannell of the Black Cultural Center and the Center for Diversity and Inclusion for all of their good work, and everyone else who's had a hand in the university's Black History Month celebration. This is an important time for everyone here at William Paterson to really focus on and celebrate the vital role that Black people and Black culture have played in the nation's history, our present, and their importance into creating a better future. It's been quite a year. I think everyone would say it's been quite a year, filled with highs and lows and plenty of events that have been a combination of the two. It began with a pandemic that has disproportionately affected people of color, but we have also seen the many incredible ways that these communities have organized and taken action to support themselves through education and outreach campaigns, and by donating and distributing supplies of masks, foods, and other necessities to people isolated by the pandemic. The summer began by the horrific killing by police of George Floyd on Memorial Day. But then tens of millions of people across the country, in big cities and smalls, rural towns alike, as well as around the world, made sure that he did not die in vain by peacefully marching and protesting and advancing the urgent message that Black lives matter. And then, as we moved into election season, we saw the real power of organizing and the real power of persistence, with an election ticket that included the first Black woman as vice president. It is widely recognized that President Biden and Vice President Harris owe their success largely to Black voters. First in South Carolina, where they resuscitated a faltering campaign, and then ultimately in the general election, when Black voters exercised the hard-won right to vote in the face of sustained suppression efforts and made their voices heard. On that subject, I want to thank today's keynote speaker, political organizer, strategist, and commentator, Latasha Brown, co-founder of the Black Voters Matter, for joining us. I look forward to her expert insights on advancing racial justice and political power for marginalized people. You know, one of the wonderful things about Vice President Harris's achievement is seeing all the young women and girls, especially Black women and girls, who are now looking at her and saying to themselves, that could be me. So don't ever let anyone tell you that representation doesn't matter. It matters. It matters greatly, which is why two of the many important efforts we are undertaking this year are decolonizing the curriculum and increasing faculty diversity. I've asked the Faculty Senate to address the curriculum to ensure that it equitably represents the history and contributions of all people across every field. On the faculty front, recently, we successfully launched the Pre-Doctoral Fellows Program to help cultivate a more diverse faculty that will better reflect and represent our students and their experiences. Black History Month grew out of a recognition that African American history is central to American history. In that same way, the history of our African American students, faculty, and staff and alumni is central to the history of William Paterson University. This month's events are an important way that the university recognizes and celebrates that history. And let's make sure that we continue to do so, not just in the month of February, but year round. It's an interesting point that I recently learned about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the author, editor, and publisher and historian, who is a driving force behind the establishment of Black History Month. Dr. Woodson acknowledged that February was chosen since it was already a time when the Black community was marking the birthdays of the great abolitionist Frederick Douglass and of Abraham Lincoln. But Woodson did not want to focus too much on either of these individuals. First, because he did not credit Lincoln with emancipation, but rather the Union Army, including hundreds of thousands of Black soldiers and sailors, along with men and women who determined the outcome of the Civil War. More broadly, however, he wanted it to be a celebration of Black people because as he observed, quote, history is made by the people, a people who had for too long been denied that history, their history. And that is why I continue to call on the Faculty Senate to lead conversations on how we should decolonize the curriculum and begin discussions on how we should think and go about graduating students who are racially competent. It is extremely important to study history for a variety of reasons. And yet, while we look back, let us also look forward and start making some history right here at William Paterson. A history that includes Black people feeling included, empowered, celebrated, inspired, and educated. As we learn during Black History Month, let us also dedicate ourselves to becoming scholars of race. So it is an honor to be here with you this afternoon, and it's wonderful to see the great series of events that is scheduled over the coming week that will serve to educate, entertain, and inspire us all. I look forward to attending as many as I can, and I encourage you all to do the same, even in this virtual environment. Connecting is important. Thank you for your time and enjoy the event.
Thank you so much, President Hell-Dobler, for those powerful words. I want to introduce Dr. David Jones, who serves as our Chief Diversity Officer and Director of Talent Management, who will introduce our keynote speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for being here for this opening program as we celebrate Black history and Black culture. It is my honor at this time to introduce our keynote speaker, Ms. Latasha Brown. Ms. Latasha Brown is a national award-winning organizer, political strategist, philanthropic consultant, and contributor to MSNBC, New York Times, and jazz singer with over 20 years of experience working in the nonprofit, and philanthropy sectors on a wide variety of issues related to political empowerment, social justice, economic development, leadership development, wealth creation, and civil rights. She is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund, a power-building Southern-based civic engagement organization that played an instrumental role in the 2017 Alabama U.S. Senate race. Ms. Brown is principal owner of Truth Speaks Consulting, Inc., a philanthropy advisory consulting firm in Atlanta, Georgia, For more than 25 years, she has served as a consultant and advisor for individual donors, government, public foundations, and private donors. Throughout her career, Ms. Brown has distinguished herself as a trusted expert and resource in political strategy, rural development, and special programming. She's the founder of Saving Ourselves Coalition, the Southern Black Women Organizing, board member for the National Coalition on Black Civic Engagement and the Southern Documentary Fund, founding project director of Grant Makers for Southern Progress, the principal owner of Truth Speaks Consulting, Inc., and she is a founding member of the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisory Gulf Coast Fund for Community Renewal and Ecological Health. She has traveled and or presented to more than 23 countries abroad. She is currently working with the Guyanese Black Women's Roundtable on a project that will provide training and increase funding and investment opportunities for women-led institutions based in Guyana, South America. It's without further ado that I welcome you all to Ms. Latasha Brown.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. I also want to take a moment to just say thank you to President Held Dobler. Like your words, your vision, your leadership in that area, this institution gives me so much hope and promise. You know, to hear what the leadership's commitment to actually being able to create an inclusive, a more inclusive environment, and to not really shy away from, you know, some of the issues at the school, but to actually lean into it and see it as an opportunity. I think that speaks to your leadership, that speaks to your vision, that speaks to your heart. And so I just want to say thank you for all of the student organizations that brought me forth. And thank you for setting the tone for there to be real transformative change, because I do think that we're in a moment for real transformative change. Walk with me, Lord. Won't you walk with me? Walk with me, Lord, walk with me. All along this tedious journey, I want Jesus just to walk with me. You know, I wanted to sing that song. It was on my spirit to sing that song before I start my remarks, not as in the context of a religious belief system, although that does come out of, that's a song that I learned from my grandmother who practiced, who was in the Deep South and practiced Christian faith. But there's a larger meaning. The reason why I wanted to start our talk, just kind of centering us in that song, and sending us in the spirit of that song, you know, in that the spirit of that song, regardless of what faith, or even if you actually are part of a faith tradition, right? That song, I think, has a relevance around speaking to the spirit of we're not alone. That literally, that part of our power is in the collective power of how we walk with this energy, this alignment, to know that humanity as a whole, that is not just me by myself, right? That is not just about me transforming or changing the world as an individual, but there is something, there's some energy, there's some power, there's some, you know, camaraderie, but there is something that is even greater than I am, that I'm able to tap into. And so I want to raise that in the context of this discussion around our learnings. What can we reflect on? I always see Black History Month, you know, as an opportunity for us to really reflect on not only the contributions that Black Americans have made to this country and to the world, but also as a moment for us to really think about our value system, for us to really think about the shaping of how we use culture to empower ourselves, and has been actually an inspiration for the world, for us to actually look at those traditions, like my grandmother singing that song that came out of the Christian tradition, but really being able to extract the power and the spirit of that music and other words, and what is it calling me to? And so given that, what I would like to do is I want to start with an exercise. I know I can't see you all on screen, you know, but I would love to start with an exercise that I normally start with. And it is I want everybody to get kind of centered wherever you are in your chair, wherever you are. I can't see many of you, but if you can just kind of get centered, get grounded as if you are you're just a vessel of light that can come from the top, and your feet are rooted as if you are a tree. So I want you to get centered. I don't want you to think about anything about what I'm going to say or this talk or Black History Month. I want you to completely clear your mind, and then kind of get centered and close your eyes. And then I'm going to ask you a question. So close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and listen to this question. What would this nation be and look like without racism? What would America be without racism? Now just kind of sit there for a minute. And now open your eyes. Now, I know that's not a lot of time because we got limited time for this talk, but I want to give a sense of, I don't know, I can't see your hands. I can't see everybody that's on this talk. But how many of you all were able to see something and how many of you all weren't? And you being able to see something or not is not a reflection of your inability to have vision or have you. There's no judgment on that. I raised that question for a particular point. That no matter where I am, whether I am teaching at Harvard, whether I am on the community center, whether I'm on a basketball court organizing, when I ask that question, the vast majority of people say that they're unable to see a vision. That racism has been so embedded in every single system in this country that it has been very difficult for people to really be able to envision this nation without racism. And so I understand that because as I continue to ask my questions, and ask myself that same question, I'm able to start seeing a little bit more and a little bit more. But the truth of the matter is, it's been very hard for me to see. And so part of the reason why we raise that and start that with our talk is that I want you just to take a moment around you and find an item, the item that's closest to you. Right now, my item closest to me is my phone. This is probably the item that's closest to me all the time, unfortunately, but they got me. I think I'm addicted, y'all. But is this phone. And so whatever item you have in your hand, the very creation of that item started with a vision. It didn't start with, you got this case and what. Someone had to envision whatever that item is for it to actually manifest in the physical world. And so I'm raising that because what I want to do is set this tone. If you don't remember anything else I say in this talk, that I want to set the tone that what is really important is that we take time to envision, not just respond to the world of what is, but to radically reimagine this nation without racism. Because what I know for sure is if we don't take time to envision something different, we will never create anything different. How could that be so? There is nothing. You cannot build a home without some kind of blueprint. You cannot, everything that has been created started with a vision that someone created, and it was that out of that vision that it continued to grow and evolve and get clear. And then sooner or later, it actually was created and manifested in the physical world. And so I think what we have to really look at what it is that as in this moment, as we're being reflective of history, we're going to be reflective in history in a way that it leads a foundation for our visions for the future. Because ultimately, that's why we study history. Part of the reason why we study history and reflect on history is how can it inform us in this moment and inform us on our moves on how we move forward so that we can literally evolve as a humanity going forward in the future. And so I think that it's really important for us to spend some time on thinking about this vision of what is our radical reimagining of America. So I'm going to ask you to do this exercise for me one more time. And I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to ask you a question. If you lived in a nation that you felt loved, honored, and respected, what would that nation look like? What would those systems be? What would be the institutions? How would they be organized? Now you can open your eyes. Now, I don't don't know, because I'm not, like I said, I am like kind of in the dark. I'm not able to see you all and your responses. But I know the first question, normally when I even ask myself that question, there's a little, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And part of it is because I'm attached to recognizing that there is a certain context of America that's the only thing that I've ever seen. I've never seen an America without racism, right? And so it's hard for me to understand and to envision. I have to break through all those things that I've seen, I've experienced, all the things that I know. But the second question, I actually feel a little more space. I feel a little bit lighter weight. I feel like, oh, I can actually envision, because I'm not competing with something that I've already, an aspect of that already. I am actually creating, I am in innovative mode. I am thinking around, if there was a nation that I felt loved and honored and respected, like what would that be? That makes me feel that question makes me feel a little bit better, because it tells me that I have permission to envision that I am not stuck in a context of what I know this country, this nation, this world to be, but that I am actually looking and thinking about what would it mean to create and to transform this nation into a nation that I felt loved and honored and respected, and that all human beings felt loved and honored and respected. So I'm saying those, in both of those questions, I want you all, if you don't remember anything else that I share in this talk, I want those two questions to be questions that you're constantly visiting, that you're constantly visiting, because that's how we're going to make change. That we can't even see in this moment around politics as being really transformative, right, without us taking the time to do that. And don't worry, I know some people say, well, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see both. I couldn't see. You know what? That's good. That's a place that says that's where you can actually look deeper. And so I'm raising the questions. I mean, none of us, in many ways, some more than others, can see different components of it, right? But I think that's the reason why I'm raising the questions, not based on, an analysis that you should be able to see this, but actually as to speak kind of our understanding is that we're not spending enough time envisioning the world that we want to see. We're not spending enough time tapping into our imagination. We're not spending enough time being innovative in our thought of every single system. I'll give a good example. We all kind of adhere to, there's a 40-hour work week, 40 hours or more, that if you're working full time, you work 40 hours or more. However, in recent years, technology has actually cut production time down in every sector, right? Why are we still working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours? If production has been cut down, you know what we could do? Not close factories. You could actually keep factories open. You could actually cut people's hours down to 10 hours a week, and you could pay them the same exact check, if not more, than what they're making. Now, that sounds crazy, right? No, it doesn't. If the means of production have cut down the production time, then why not the value and the benefits of the production, right? Increased production, go down to the workers. It is totally possible. The only thing that prevents us from thinking about it that way and doing it that way is because we're attached to there's another way of being. And that in order for us to be contributing full-time citizens, we have to work 40 hours a week. What says that? Where is what is the rationale around that? I'm raising this, right? I'm raising this as whether you agree with that analysis or not. The point being is that we have freedom to really be able to envision outside the box, right? Envision outside of the frame. I do want to, as I was thinking about sitting with even the theme of this talk, protecting the crown, breaking generational curses. I was thinking about that and really wanted to, and hopefully in the Q&A to really kind of talk about that. And what does that mean? And so I understand the spirit, and I understand literally around kind of the context of what that means. But I also want us to envision and think about it in a broad way as well. That oftentimes we're looking at oppressed communities, that there's something that we're doing wrong, that these things would not be happening to us had we not been doing this, right? Part of, if we worked hard, there is a narrative that said if Black folks worked harder, we would not be experiencing poverty, right? That if we voted more, we would have better representation. All of those things that literally completely overlook how structural racism and oppression not only has impact in the moment, historically, but also long term. And so that part of what you're seeing in our community, right? The fact, I actually believe, have a different perspective. The fact that Black people are still voting in the system, that the majority of the benefits, financial, economic, and political benefits have actually gone to our white counterparts. The fact that we are voting on par with them in less than 55 years of having the Voting Rights Act is extraordinary. The fact that Black folks are literally coming out in record numbers in spite of the voter suppression is extraordinary. The fact that Black women are entering college at higher rates than any other constituency group. Yet when you look at it in terms of resources, we have some of the least amount of resources, along with our brown sisters, than any other constituency group in this country. The fact that we are showing up and voting than any other constituency group in this country. The fact that we are literally creating small businesses. But when we're looking at the outcome, I'm raising this because what America has told us to do is to go to school. We're going to school, participating in the political process. We're voting. To literally be able to start a business, all those things are the key to success. And so if that were so, why is it that Black women are actually at the bottom as it relates with our brown sisters? Why are we at the bottom as it relates to having wealth and income? That's because there's a lack of alignment with systems that honor our work, that honor our contribution, that honor us showing up. And so what we have to do, what that means is that we have to create new systems, that we have to create new ways and new thoughts of being. We have to create a system that's not just about the upliftment of Black people, but the upliftment of all of humanity. When I think about the work that Dr. King did, I think about the work that we did with Black Voters Matter. Our work at Black Voters Matter wasn't just about, we just want to have a world that increases the life for Black folks. It's about increasing humanity. When I talk about democracy, I'm not talking about democracy that the end goal is democracy. The end goal isn't democracy for me. The end goal is the advancement of humanity. That's the end goal. Democracy is a means to an end, not an end in itself. To the extent that democracy no longer protects or allows the protection of people, it is useless to me. And so there are parts of what we've allowed, even in this culture, we've allowed ourselves to kill, to maim, to drop bombs on other countries as it relates in the space of, quote, democracy, when in fact, democracy is a vehicle by which people are to be able to participate in what governs them, right, for the sake of advancing our lives and humanity. And we can't lose focus on that. The goal was never just about voting. The goal was about humanity. In Selma, Alabama, when people marched on the Emmett Pettus Bridge, that wasn't just about, the fight to vote. That was about people affirming their humanity. That was about people saying, I have agency, and that if there's any decision to be made about me and my community, then I should be a part of that decision-making process. That leadership that is leading and governing my community should be accountable to me. That I am going to assert my power. It doesn't matter what your system says. It doesn't matter about what you're saying. I am asserting my humanity. And you will see that, and I would continue to do that, be who I am. And so that is really what happened. But oftentimes within our telling of history, we make it be about the thing, the outcome, and not necessarily the spirit of what it was really about. Just like the Black Lives Matter movement is about. It does not say that other lives don't matter. What it says is Black Lives Matter. And if you can't say Black Lives Matter, you cannot say all lives matter because you don't believe all lives matter, right? And so I think that is really important for us to really recognize the conversation that we're in right now and how we can actually shift this conversation. And so I only have a couple of minutes that I want to finish the talk, and I want to leave more space for the Q&A because I'm really anxious about engaging you all in the conversation. And by the way, the logo, whoever drew the logo, is fantastic. I love this. Love this image. But there are three things I want to kind of end a thought around what I call kind of the V principle. And I think part of it is some things that I want to leave with you all. The first V is around voice. That part of what you have to be comfortable in is that you have to be comfortable with using your voice. And sometimes we also have to be responsible. A lot of times we'll say, well, yeah, we know, there's a belief that the truth shall set you free. I certainly believe that, but that does not mean that you are not responsible of how you handle the truth. The way that we handle the truth, you have to recognize, are you using the truth as a weapon? Are you weaponizing the truth? Are you using the truth as a vehicle, as a bomb for a wounded soul? Are you using the truth to advance humanity forward, or are you using the truth because you want people to be stuck in a particular kind of reality? And so I think it's really important for us to do a couple of things. One of these three things, the first bucket I want to talk about is voice. That it is important, students and faculty, that you literally use your voice. You use your voice in a way that my grandmother used to say, speak life into people. Like speak life into them, give folks hope. That doesn't mean that what you're saying doesn't have to be uncomfortable. I speak things that are uncomfortable all the time, but behind any time that I am talking is the intention that love grounds it. That in me telling you the truth, that what you are doing is causing hurt and harm to someone, there's love in that. I love you enough to actually bring about what I think is to help you to see something that you may not be able to see. And so it's my responsibility to speak that truth and say what you are doing is wrong, and it is hurtful, and it is making people be in pain. And I believe you can do better, right? And so I think that is really important that in that space that we use our voice as a tool to organize, to mobilize, but also to be a healing balm. And so, and in that is also when we're bringing correction, that is part of an expression of love. Expression of love isn't just for you telling me, my friends, that people in my life that just tell me everything I want to hear. Those aren't the people that love me. The people that love me are the people that are willing to stand in the space and tell me the truth. The people that are willing to tell me things about myself that I'm unable to see. The people that do it with care, they maybe see some flaw in me, but they're not raising that to be a weapon to hurt or to harm me. They're bringing it because they believe that I deserve the opportunity to see it so that I can literally address it. And so I think it's really important that if you don't remember anything else that I say related to voice, is that recognizing that your voice has power. And because it has power, that means you have to be responsible with it. That you have to use it in a way that lifts. When we're going around, we're saying it's Black History Month, and we go around, it was like, I've heard people say Black folks don't support Black business. Well, if that was true, there would be no Black business. 98% of most businesses are supported by Black people. So you're actually speaking something that's not true, that has been rooted in a narrative that there's something fundamentally wrong with our people, and it's not. And so I think the first thing we have to do is use your voice to speak that which you see. Use your voice to actually create the questions to help people think about their radical reimagining of the future, or literally use your voice in a way that can speak life into people, that can give folks hope, that can give people a sense of being able, that correction is not a bad thing, but in fact, it is an opportunity. Be able to literally have yourself to be able to receive when other people are saying things to you. It's not necessarily to hurt or to harm you. You can hear love if you listen enough, but if you only listen to the critique and not listen to what is behind that, you may miss it. It's some of the biggest critiques I've ever gotten in my life were the very things that were transformative to me. But I can also say that those people that brought those things to me actually had a measure of love around it. They had a measure. I knew these were people who cared about me. Even though my aunt can say things that she can cut you she has the kind of tongue that can cut you like a sword. But ultimately, I was able to develop to see even beyond that and see the love in which of everything that she was saying to me. The second V, because I told you it's three, the second V is really thinking about vision, which goes back to my first question I asked you, that it is impossible to create another reality or other ways of being if we're not visionaries. And so I know there's constantly throughout history, when we're taking history classes in school, there's a push on this understanding of the intentions of the founders. Now, what did the founders intended? Well, the truth of the matter is the American founders did the founders of this country didn't even intend for me to be speaking to you all today. They couldn't even, their vision was so limited that they couldn't even see my humanity because I was a woman. They couldn't see my humanity because I am Black. They couldn't see my humanity because I was outside of what their vision was able to connect, something that they were unable to see and recognize in humanity. And so while they were able to have some glimpses of visions around democracy, I think glimpses of something around liberation. And when you really read the Declaration of Independence, it's one of my favorite documents in the world. I think it's absolutely beautiful because I think that what we see is we see some of the vision that their own racism prevented them to be able to see. I think some that may have come out of a place that they knew there was some truth in it, but their own inability, their own limitations of being racist and both sexist prevented them from even being able to see a vision that was trying to find itself through them. And so I say that to you, that part of what you have to do is you have to start shifting the paradigm and not ask the question around what the founders intended, but you have to start seeing yourselves as the founders of a new America. You are founders of a nation that we don't put children in cages because they have a different passport, that we don't literally demonize and make our brothers and sisters who are not of this nation because they have a different passport. We call them aliens as if they're how dare we call another human being an alien? How dare we have the audacity to believe that we even own land? We are stewards of this earth, and people should have freedom to move around as they see fit for their families, for the protection of themselves and their families. And so I think that part of what we have to do is we have to really unravel this conditioning in our own mind of how we don't respect humanity, that fundamentally it's beyond about the nation state. A nation state is important to the extent that it services the needs of advancing humanity. And so I think it's really important that you have a vision, that we have a vision that another world is possible. We have a vision that we can actually be the wealthiest country in the world, and we can actually create a system of the distribution of wealth that every single person at work is paid for their work. They're paid for their labor, that if people are going to work every day, they should have their basic needs taken care of, that we all have housing, that we have education and healthcare. What's so bad with that? If you're the wealthiest country in the world and you're not being able to provide that for your citizens, why are you bragging? And so my point is, I think it's really important that you as a new generation, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to think, as I call myself, I'm a Black futurist. I have an opportunity to really think about what it is that I am creating that will actually open and usher in a new way of being in the future. And so the second bucket, while the first bucket is using and leveraging your voice, the second bucket, which I think is even more critical, is really around vision. And then the third and the final V in this process is victory. And as I'm raising victory, we have to shift the way that we see win. We've been able to see win as a zero-sum game. Even in this country, the way that we see politics, you're either conservative or you're liberal. This is either on the right or on the left. If I am white and I'm supporting voting rights, I am a conservative. I am Black and I'm supporting voting rights, I'm a liberal. How is that so? I'm just supporting voting rights, right? I'm neither on the left or on the right. I'm not conservative, I'm liberal, I'm human. And all what drives my decisions, whether they be political, whether they're economic, or literally I am using the frame and the filter of advancing humanity for the love of humanity. Put that down. For the love of humanity. If that was a frame in which we use that in making our decision-making processes in politics, in education, what would it look like? If every time a policy was passed and the policymakers literally put in front of them for the love of humanity, what would that look like? That wouldn't mean that everybody would have the same idea. That wouldn't even mean that everybody would have the same notion. What that would mean, though, is we would have more righteous alternative examples, right, of how to lead, that policy would look like. That not a policy that says, you can't have and this can have, but a policy that really grapples with the opportunity that there is enough for all of us, right? And so I think it's really important that this notion of victory, that we shift and expand the paradigm of how we see what makes a victory. What makes a victory is not winning an election. Although, as you all know, I'm a political operative and I like to win and I like to win elections. But ultimately, what I am looking for in terms of what a win means for me is that human beings have access to housing and shelter, that human beings are treated with love and dignity and respect, that human beings are able to operate totally in their differences and have respect for each other in their differences. What I am looking for, a victory to me, is that we create systems, every single system in this nation and in this world, that ultimately the goal is how are we advancing humanity. That's a victory for me. And so I want us to look at those three things around how do we use and how we operate in the context of literally being able to use our voice, how to be able to use and create a vision, and how do we shift our paradigm in the frame of what is a victory. So that victory doesn't get reduced to a red or blue game. It's not about red or blue. At the end of the day, if you're putting children in cages, you are wrong. If you are treating women if you're treating women who are from Peru and Colombia who came up here and you're giving them hysterectomies and taking their ability to be able to birth children because of your decision and your own racism, that ain't red or blue. That's not Republican or Democrat. That's wrong. That is inhumane. And we've got to have the courage to start calling things out and not allowing people to put us in a box around what is different, because it's actually the variety in the world that makes the world such a beautiful place. Who goes to a place and just thinks that everything is the same? I want everything the same. That's going to be perfect. It's not. Part of our love for beautiful places is that we see variety. Part of our love for food is because there's variety. Part of our love for spices is because there's variety. The bottom line is our problem in this nation isn't that we all have to think the same and be the same. That's the wrong goal. Our problem in this country is that we don't know how to receive and accept differences. That our problem in this country is that is where the breakthrough is. The breakthrough is being able to lean into that there are those that want to practice a faith and those that don't want to practice a faith, and they all equally should be respected and honored and loved. There are those that want to look at how they do things differently than others, and they should all be respected. And all I'm going to say as I get ready to close is, if we use the simple frame and filter for the love of humanity, that ultimately in that right there, right, we could actually shift and transform the world. Well, the first thing I did right was the day I started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, hold on. We just got to keep our eyes on the prize and hold on. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening. And thank you for allowing me to share my truth with you.
Everyone turn on your cameras if you can, and let's show our love and appreciation for Latasha Brown's presentation, her keynote, her message. Turn on your cameras if you can and let her see how much you appreciate her words. Latasha Brown, I want you to see everyone on the screen. I want you to see everyone giving you the love and respect that you have shown us today for our experience. Thank you so much. And we're going to turn it over to Tia, who's going to help moderate this experience for us. And we want to keep the chat open. We want you to use your mics. If you have any comments, please, now is the time to do so.
Thank you so much, Yolani. And again, thank you so much, Ms. Latasha Brown, for that wonderful, amazing speech. I also want to make sure that I acknowledge Chance Smith, who not only did the logo, but also assisted us with the theme for this month. So Chance, if you are here, wave your hand or something so we can acknowledge you. But again, thank you so much. And now, if you all don't mind, if you could please post your questions in the chat, or please feel free to unmic yourself if you have any questions or comments. I would like to start it off, Ms. Brown, and just ask for the students who are here with us today who would like to get more involved in their community and more knowledgeable in politics, where do you think that they should begin?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I think that part of, let me say this, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And what I mean by that is oftentimes we're looking for the perfect organization. I haven't found that, including the organizations that I've started, right? I haven't found the perfect organization, right? But I think the best thing to do is use a standard of what it is that you are trying to learn more. Like, I think go into an environment that you can actually have, that is a safe environment, that you can actually have free exchange. And sometimes that means going in an environment that everybody doesn't think like you. If everybody's going to think like you, then I mean, but I think part of it is, at the very least for me, I'm only involved myself in organizations that have the same values that I have. People can have different approaches to it, but at the very least, it has to have the same values. And so what I do think in this moment, that every single person, and you can always change your mind, y'all. Like, I'm raising this because I think it's really important that in this period of time, that everybody should have a political home. I say that everybody should be a member of some organization. It can be a little civic church group. It can be a book club. It doesn't matter what it is. You need some kind of political home. You need some organization. Why? Part of it is, I think that there's something that is so obsessed with individualism in this country that we will literally create these theories in our head of what the world should be, and we judge everybody else in the world against that, right? We'll get our information from Twitter or Facebook, and there's never any real dialogue to work through kind of these ideas and these thoughts with other people around practical, like in the relationship. Part of what is revealed in our relationship and being with each other is there oftentimes there's aspects of the truth that you can actually gather and gain through being in relationship. Right? Not just in terms of a theory or a hashtag or article that you wrote. And so I think it's really important that you join a political home. So there's a couple of things I'm going to say. One, I think that you should find a political home, find some organization that you are supporting. And what does support look like? Support means that you join, you become a member. At the very least, you contribute something, at least $5. Let me tell you why. Because when we actually invest our money in something, right, it's a different kind of investment, right? And it doesn't matter what the amount is. I'm quite sure the organization will want as much as you can do, but there's something about making kind of that investment that actually kind of helps you kind of think. It elevates that in many ways for you. And so I think that that's important. I think too, it's really important during this time, that we have to study. That I'm glad we're doing the Black History program, but part of what I am finding is I'm hearing people make statements that are ahistorical. Secret, y'all. The movement didn't start when we showed up, and it ain't gonna end when we leave. There is nothing new under the sun. Everything that we are experiencing has been experienced through humanity before, maybe in a different environments, in different contexts, but there's an answer. Everything that we're working with right now, somebody has come up against this and have fought this. It may have been in 1600, it may have been what have you. The bottom line is the human experience is we're all just trying to figure it out. None of us really know. We're really making up all of this, right? We really don't know. And part of the process of this journey is literally being able to learn more about yourself and others by being in relationships. So I think part of the other piece is not so much about just what the organization does, but you need to be in relationship with other human beings as you're developing your ideology, as you're developing your work, as you're developing your value system going forward. And so I think that is important. The last thing that I'll say too is, which is part of the historical piece, is that the more that you read about history, the more you feel connected and realize that what you are experiencing, you're not alone. Sometimes people don't want to engage in the movement because it feels overwhelmed. It feels overwhelming, right? And I've felt that way. And I remember being a young woman and I was a part of some effort. I can't even remember what it was. And I was feeling overwhelmed. And I remember after that, I was reading slave narratives and I was reading by Harriet Tubman. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm not going through half of this of what she went through. And I'm, how can I not have hope? Like what? All I gotta do is go get in my car and drive 2 minutes down the street. I got a job. I got all these things, right? And so I think that that's part of the reason why history is so important, because I think it can be instructive. I also think it's important that you're reading your history, but that you're reading other history of other nations and of other people, right? When you think about part of the Black liberation theology that was created in this country, actually came out of South America, right? It was our Latin brothers and sisters, our Latinx brothers and sisters that actually had a history around how they use faith, a liberation theology, right, to really fuel the movement that was happening there. I'm saying that we can learn from what happened in Haiti. You know, at the time that Haiti got independence, we don't understand how extraordinary it was. France was the superpower of the world, France and England. And so here you got this little island, right, of the island of Haiti, that literally the uprising of the spirit of those people did when it had never been done. You've got former enslaved Africans to beat the empire. My point is, there are lessons of what we can see throughout. We can go to Jamaica, you're right, and we could talk about Nanny. We could talk about a woman who led an uprising, you know, in Jamaica. The point is that the goal is to actually look at the history of human beings, how we have always stood in a space to resist and to advance, those who have been transformative, you know, in this world. That's where we should draw our energy from. And I think that that's important too. And I think doing those things are important, a part of getting involved in the work and finding an organization, whether it's a civic group, whether it's a student group, that you can be involved in. Like I said, it might not be the best. It might even not be a good experience, but it is an experience that will actually enrich as you go forward. And then you're like, okay, this is an organization. I'm going to go and find this organization. That it is a continuous commitment on your part to be in a space that you can learn, grow, develop, and serve.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question that they would like to ask Ms. Brown?
I have a question to you.
Yes.
For Ms. Brown. Thank you so much for such a powerful keynote. I know we all took a lot from what you had to say. Now, you talked about, you know, encouraging folks to find their voice. You know, if you're a young person on this call, or even someone, you know, on the staff or faculty are still looking to find their voice, you know, what kind of advice can you give to folks that are looking to find their voice, or even feeling as if their voice is enough, right? In certain spaces, because I know we've all been along that journey where we try to figure out when and how we use our voice and if our voice is enough. So I don't know if you've had some experiences with that you kind of share and talk and give some advice to the folks listening.
Thank you so much for that question. You know, what I'm about to say is going to sound counterintuitive, but it is the truth as I have experienced it. What has strengthened my voice has been my ears. What has strengthened my voice is to be able to listen. The more I have listened, I can't even tell you all how many meetings that I went to with my mentor that I never said a word. And y'all know I like to talk, right? It was, but part of, I'm saying that because I think that part of what the pressure around using our voice is that we have to know everything. The pressure around, I have to be right. I have to be perfect. And so what I want to say is, I think in terms of the process for me is always creating more space for me to be able to listen to those around me. The more that I listen, the more I'm confident to speak. Because now I'm speaking from my experience and what I'm hearing, right? I got evidence. I heard when I'm saying, well, Black folks, I'm not just saying, well, this is what I think about Black folks. I've been talking to hundreds of Black folk on the street. This is what they said. And I can feel real confident to tell you what they said, right? I'm saying that because I think there's a shaping. There are three parts. I think the first shaping is the foundation. I think the foundation has to be in the listening. I think sometimes we can listen to ourselves in quiet, in silence. What I mean by that is, how much time are we spending to ourselves to just even let those ideas we have germinate? You know, we feel something, we get excited about what we feel, and we want to say it, right? But sometimes you just have to sit with it and listen yourself. Listen to what's around you. I literally listen. Sometimes I just sit out and listen to water. And I just listen. And what it does, it makes me comfortable with just being in my body. And the more that I'm comfortable with that, it gives me agency and gives me confidence to be that when I use my voice, I'm able to speak. The second thing that I would say Dr. Jones, related to that and around using our voice is that I do think that using our voice, there's a rhythm. And this is what I mean. That sometimes how many of y'all have been in conversations and somebody was saying something good, but it felt like they were forcing it. And it just didn't quite land right because they were forcing it, right? But there's a rhythm of a conversation. If you listen, you can actually find the rhythm, right? And just because you think a thing don't mean you got to say it, right? It's literally being able to utilize that space of when it is time that you can say it. And then let's go to the other extreme. There are those that are afraid to speak. They're afraid to use their voice. They don't want the repercussions, all of that. The bottom line, the definition of courage is not doing something without fear. The definition of courage is doing it when fear is present. That you like, so I'm raising that part of, even as a public speaker, even as a performer, before I go on the stage, I'm always nervous. And I'm glad because that reminds me that I'm human, right? But I also, once I start talking, I release it because what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk from my truth. And even if I need to be corrected, I don't take it personal. If I say something wrong and Dr. Jones, you say, that quote that you just said about Nanny, that wasn't correct. I don't take that personal. I take that was a love exchange. I take it that you are like literally correcting me and I can receive it in that moment because I've disconnected my personal ego from literally being able to speak for what is my truth, right? And then the last and the final thing that I'll say, kind of related to voice, is voice is power. There's this saying that sticks and stones will hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's the biggest lie ever been told. There's never been any war that was not created because of words. There was never been any confusion in relationship. We can hurt people with our words. I'm raising that because I think there is a particular responsibility with our voice that we can release the pressure of we got to say the right thing. But I think if we maintain it in the spirit of what I am saying is to help and not to hurt, that it gives a certain kind of context. And so those of you that are literally, I'm sorry, I don't know why my computer is. Those of you that are literally in this space of like trying to find your voice, you don't have to look for it, it's there. What you have to do is get comfortable with saying, and if right now if it's just a little that you want to say, it's almost like you have to surrender to what's in front of you. And so not thinking that one day the fear is going to leave, because it may not. Like I said, I don't know how many times I've been speaking for years and I like to talk, but I still have a sense of nervousness before I speak. I think the second thing too, this is the most important thing, if you don't remember anything else I say, Dr. Jones, is that at the end of the day, I want every single person to know you are whole and complete. There's nothing left to do but to be. And what do I mean by that? That however you show up is enough. That we have this pressure, particularly at communities of color, that we have to say all the right things, that we have to always be the symbol of perfection, that we have to literally, there is a certain level of pressure on us in those spaces because of white supremacy, because of structural racism. There are repercussions that we experience, right? But what I have found is that when I am literally speaking in a space that I recognize, and I'm speaking from a space that I'm most confident, that I'm speaking in a space of where I'm just like allowing kind of what is in me to share with others, that is when I feel safest. And so those of you that are looking for a space with your voice is already there. Your voice is already there. You're going to have to build the muscle. It's just like building a muscle. You got to build a muscle by using it. And use it in a way that's responsible. Use it in a way that actually speaks life. Use it in a way that actually speaks. If you don't want to speak to the public, fine. Every morning, get up and speak. Say your speech to yourself. Get up and tell your speech to yourself and continue and continue and continue. And at some point, you will actually start feeling a relief around using your voice in a way that you feel connected to the power that's inside of you.
That is amazing.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question that they would like to post in the chat, or please feel free to unmic yourself?
And if we're following the trend and the comments, you know, we have a lot of affirmations. You hit home. A lot of your comments resonated very deeply with our students, with our staff, with our faculty. So again, we want to invite people to drop any comments or questions on the chat and use their mics, as T had mentioned.
You know, I want, let me say about this university. I am, there's so much power, y'all, in this university. I still am. I was moved by the president's words earlier, right? I was moved by the students that said that they had pulled this together. Sometimes we just take things for granted. You know, that is an opportunity. It may not be perfect, but there's an opportunity when I think I read something where there's a designation as a certain what's the designation that you all have as a college?
We were recently designated a Hispanic Serving Institution as of 2015, and 60% of our students are non-white.
Do you know how powerful that is? How excited that makes me? Even the designation, how excited that makes me. Y'all, we are here. We're here. And the question isn't who's going to give us what. We're going to create the world we want, right? We're going to create the world that we want, right? And we get caught up in saying, yes, and I'm the main one that I will fight against systems that exist. I do. But be clear, that ain't all I'm doing. While I am fighting these systems, I am over here strategizing and thinking about, oh, how can we do education different? Oh, how can we do this political system different? I don't want to do this. We're going to do this. I am raising this is that to the extent that even some of you all feel bothered and don't know your space right now, or you're feeling agitated, you are in the perfect place. You're supposed to be there because until the pain to change, right, becomes greater than the pain of remaining the same, the pain to remain the same becomes greater than the pain to change. Let me say that, mixed it up. Until the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain to change, you won't change. And so the extent that you all are feeling discomfort right now, good. That means something is calling you to think beyond what currently exists. You are the visionaries. You are in an institution that's actually shifted. You shifted the dynamics and the designation of that institution, right? You will literally be able to have a space. And it's not about the institution. The institution is just a container, right? The soul and the spirit of the institution are the students and the faculty. You literally can create the kind and be the foundation to help create a new paradigm for us to exist in this world. Like, use your education there, not just about getting a job, use it to literally be able to, how do we envision, as an architect, how do we envision creating communities that literally, that is more reflective of folks' cultural values, right? How do we, in this whole box, individual families, so many cultures, that's not what they do. There are cultures that I've gone in Africa where they have whole compounds. Everybody, the family lives together, right? Can we not allow ourselves that space to start creating and envisioning? Like, how can we co-create a world that all of us can do better in, that is more reflective to us? And I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that you all have this opening and this opportunity. I don't know the details of the institution. I am quite sure that there is some major challenges there. I am quite sure that structural racism is within every single department in that system. I'm clear about that. But what I'm also clear about is this is an institution that has a brain trust of brilliant students and faculty that literally can recreate a reality. And so we have to also think about that as well, that it is beyond we're at a point now that our work is beyond our institution. We're at the point now that we literally should be thinking about how everything we do is literally for the love of humanity.
Okay, thank you.
I'm celebrating. I am celebrating your last remarks. And one of the things that we want to just make mention is that, and I share this with the agent, that the reason why we exist as the Center for Diversity, Inclusion, the Black Culture Center is because of pioneer pride and student demands. And very proud of that, that history and that narrative, to know that our students want to see and are already envisioning. And we I invite our student ambassadors and our student leaders to maybe share any remarks or any questions you have. And we're getting close to our time, and so we wanted to hear any students share any comments with our distinguished guests today.
I have a question.
Okay.
I feel like in moments like these where the school brings like notable people who like really understand the struggle and like beautifully speak to us and like move us like this, that I don't know what to ask, but I know I should ask something, you know, like because like you understand.
Let me stop you for a second. You don't have to ask anything. You might have something to deposit to me. I can learn from you. This is an exchange. This is how the way community works, is that we exchange. I am not the end all. I don't know everything. I hear it in your voice, brother. There's something that you have that I can learn from. So just speak from your spirit. Whatever it is, it don't have to be a question. There's something that you want to share. Just share that.
Mm. Oh man. I don't.
Let me say this to you. I hear what you're not saying. You feel me?
Yeah.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. And I think that's part of, I hear you so strongly that I'm actually moved to tears. I hear you. And sometimes things need to be said, sometimes they don't. If you want to say it, fine. But I hear you because I feel you. I hear the humanity in your voice. I hear the truth and the authenticity of what you said. You don't have to have the perfect words put together. Like your presence for you to actually offer, right? There's something powerful. It is enough. And so I want you to know you are enough. Right, the world makes us think that we have to literally be able to come in the right way, in the right packaging, and that's all about consumerism. The world has told us as Black and brown people that we're not good enough, that if we don't master the king's or the queen's English, if we don't have the right question to ask, if we don't have the right paragraph, but guess what? Your presence was all I needed to hear. Like just those words that you offered, I want you to know I hear you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you.
Hi, Ms. Brown. Hi. First and foremost, I just want to thank you for actually coming on to this platform. You actually like moved me to tears, which is why I try not showing my face on the screen. But you just move me so much to just like move forward in things that I want to do. And to the protecting the crown and breaking generational curses, like to our theme, I have a question. So like in the middle of this pandemic, oh, by the way, my name is Mashley Saintville. Sorry, I'm emotional, you guys, right now. I'm Ashley Saintville. I'm the president of the Haitian American Student Association. And this is why it's like moving me so much, is because like in the middle of this pandemic, how can us as students, me as a student, not just like as a person with a position on campus, but just as just a student, how can I break generational curses like in my last semester here? Because I know I just have so much that I can do. And it doesn't have to be rushed, but I know I have like so much in me. And after everything you just said, like you just gave me like the strength to like do so much this semester. So
So do you mind if I engage you back and forth? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask that question to you. Listen to what I'm saying. What can you do?
A lot.
No, just tell me what's coming up for you. It's not it's not a right or wrong. I know that there are people on here. This isn't an embarrassment. This me and you. What is it that's come to you that you want to do right now?
Communicate more with other students who aren't like me.
Okay.
like non-Haitians to be exact,
Okay.
to be more in tune with other African American students, not just to be stuck in my own bubble of being Haitian.
Okay.
To start off right there.
That's your answer. The truth of the matter is I'm raising this because I don't want you all to think that I'm trying to simplify, but we live in a culture, we live in capitalism. And in capitalism, everything is about productivity and the production of commodities. And so it has trained us to think that unless you are always doing, that you're not providing value. Some of the greatest value is in the being. It's just in being. And so I'm raised, and then if you allow yourself to be in the space of being, you will know what to do. Right, you will know, and you'll know that it's not your burden to carry. You're not going to be able to lift up the legacy in the country of Haiti on your own. That's just too much of a burden to bear, right? That's too much of a burden to bear, right? But what you are is, sister, you are a demonstration of the nation that you love. You are a demonstration of your people. You are a demonstration. You are an expression of love personified in your body and in your being. That is enough. And I know that's counterintuitive what everybody else says, what all these institutions, not let me say what everybody else says, what all these institutions show us. But all of these institutions are constantly trying to convince us that there's something wrong with us, that we are not enough, that we've got to do more to prove that we are worthy, that we've got to be at the top of the class to prove that we are smart, that we have to be a wealthy person to show that we know what we're doing. When in fact, could we just take a moment to literally center ourselves in our own humanity and use our gifts and let the expression of our gifts kind of lead us? If you want to talk and have those conversations, convene that. Don't wait till you get it perfect. I'm raising this because sometimes the answers are right in front of us. We're waiting for kind of this, but the answers are right in front of us. And so part of what you're feeling right now is because you're allowing yourself to feel. Part of the time when we're in these spaces and because we don't come to these spaces, we don't come to talks ready to feel. I'm like, all right, I'm coming to get some stuff on my mind, right? And that's normally how we are. But in this space, what I am trying to do a better job, what I want to do a better job at, what my goal is, I want to literally be an expression of the highest form of love. I want to be an expression that my mind, my thoughts, my body is all in alignment. I'm not there yet, y'all, but that is my goal. That's what I want to do. And so even these talks and these platforms give me an opportunity to be able to share my story, my work, be able to get to share what some of my thinking is around, be able to learn from you all. I draw strength from you all. Oftentimes when you all are talking, I'll go through the gallery and look at the faces. It means so much to me, right? To be able to I feel honored to have a space of a whole generation of folk that literally are going to shape the future going forward. And so I just want you to know that what I think that these are the opportunities for us to have an exchange, and don't minimize that. We don't all know the answers. Like we don't know the answers. We don't know the perfect route. But I do think that the more that we're standing in our authentic power and our authentic voice and we're shifting how we see victory, I think it gets revealed to us what we have to do. I do. If we pay attention and listen, we know exactly the next move to make. And it may be small moves because mighty rivers are filled drop by drop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a request that came on my phone. They want to do another appreciation show of love for you.
Well, I'm taking all the love. I love love.
So, all right. We out of time, everybody. Put on your cameras if you're able. Again, this is a request from members of this presentation that wanted to show themselves, that wanted to show their image to Latasha so they can be seen, so they can be show their love and appreciation. So give you a snaps, give you a claps, throw them. Thank you so much, Latasha Brown. Thank you so much to everybody for being part of this experience. We have well over 60 participants that came on today. We have 57 folks that joined us, have trickled down for other meetings. Latasha, we do want to thank you so much for your time. Tia does have some final remarks that she wanted to share with our community as a reminder of what's happening next. But again, this could not have been possible without your wisdom and your knowledge with us. Thank you so much. We want to encourage all of our students to drop on the chat your full name so that we can get your participation. If you are part of this experience for the Social Justice Leadership Badge, you will get information for that. We are going to send an email to every student that's on here so that you can get a free Black History Month shirt when it arrives, you know, it's a snow day. So when we get the package, you'll get your package. So make sure that you drop your name. And Tia, I'm gonna leave these next couple slides to you.
Thank you so much, Yolani. I just have to plug in, if you don't mind, College of Humanities and Social Sciences has an amazing virtual event this Thursday, which is the teach-in, and it's surrounded around the assault that happened at the Capitol on January 6th. And you can register on Eventbrite. If you have any issues, you need the link, please feel free to contact me directly. I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you so much once again to Ms. Latasha Brown for being here with us. I don't know about anyone else, but I think I can speak for everyone when I say that you gave me so much motivation and you empowered me, not just for this month, but just in general as a woman of color, and I thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for coming to today's Black History Month opening ceremony. Please make sure to view the calendar for our upcoming events and have a great day.
Thank you.